Heyo, everybody. Does anybody else have school-age children and you're just getting tons of emails and text notifications and app notifications being like, please verify that your emergency contact information is correct? And I'm like, I've verified it 10 times already. I don't know how much more verified this can get. Because I just received another text to remind me.
No. I haven't got the ones for like verifying like notification there, or that what you said, like what did you say? It's the
emergency contact information.
So mine is they're saying, hey, we have a new issue of this, and it's a school thing that they do. It's like a journal that they do like every 4 months or something. And so I've got like 3 notifications through the email, one to my text message, one on the app that they're using, which I can't remember what that is. I always have to log in and figure out what it is again. I'm like, I never read it. I've never read it.
Do y'all remember how I told you over the summer that I was hyped because the school system was like, we're switching to Parent Square. Everybody's got to use Parent Square. All the teachers will use Parent Square. Yeah, we went to back to school night, and 2 of the teachers were like, we got Class Dojo, and this other teacher was like, I just text. Which I'm like, I feel her. That's fine with me. I'm good with just text, but I was like, so much for everybody using the same thing.
Yeah. They used Class Dojo last year. They changed to something else this year.
Yeah, so I have like 5 different apps because like before it was just each teacher used what they preferred. Most of them preferred Class Dojo though. So that's what most of them are.
Class Tag is what we're using. Class Tag.
Yeah, I have that.
You've heard of that? I've never heard of it before.
One of the teachers sent a message through, like, they're set up on Class Dojo, but then they sent a message through Parent Square. And I was like, I like that one. That one is making the steps toward making sure I only need one app.
When I was at Kentucky, they just always used Remind, and it never changed. It was just always Remind. And I like that. That's like a text message.
That one too.
Yeah. I like that one just fine. It worked good.
Yeah, Remind was fine. Wow. Class Dojo is cute because they have the little monsters.
Yeah, other stuff up there too. And
I have Seesaw and Blooms. Oh, I don't know if you've used those two.
No,
but
I haven't.
Hi everyone, how was your weekend? Oh. See, we more than occasionally talk about lots of parent things. My friend was teasing me the other day. They're like, you say you talk writer things and parent things, but do you? And I was like, yes, especially school season.
Yeah.
Hey, yo, and welcome.
Bethany!
We appreciate you being here.
JC.
What the? JC saying hi to everyone. Hello. Yes, please make friends with the like button. My analytics,
get rid of
and
my
I
blonde.
Appreciate it. That's all you got?
I got rid of my blonde. It's still in my profile, but I got rid of it.
Got it.
It was a lot to upkeep because the red, I use a red shampoo, so I had to like pull it separate so the shampoo didn't
yeah, that would be.
Yeah, it was a lot of upkeep. And I was like, I'm done with this.
I just want to use the same shampoo on all my hair. Hey, everybody. How was y'all's weekend? So I am a little bit out of it, and I have a pounding headache today because I didn't pay close enough attention to when I should take my migraine shot, but my husband realized it within my 30-day window. So I was like, cool. And I, called, got the prescription refilled. Then Chris went to pick it up, and they were like, we are out of stock. And we're like, what do you mean you're out of stock?
It took you forever to get that prescribed again, right? Didn't you go through all
Yeah,
that?
but thankfully it was just a inventory issue. So I just had to call, because my pharmacy is Walgreens, so I just called the other Walgreens literally in the other side of the road. And I was like, do you have the Emgality shot in stock? And they're like, 100 or 120? I'm like, 120. They're like, yeah, we got it. I gave them my information, and Chris picked it up. But that does mean I took my shot a little bit late. And as it wears off a little bit earlier for me than it's supposed to. I'm readjusting to the shot. And of course, it had to rain on the weekend.
What the?
Did it make it cooler though? It's like hot. It got up to 115 a day.
My air conditioning is very good, so the outside temperatures doth not affect me if I don't leave.
We planned better today because it got almost as hot as yesterday, or today as yesterday, but we had turned the temperature, down because we have it like 66 at night, but try to conserve energy during the day, and it just got so hot in here. It was melting in here. Today we didn't change it. We left it at 66. So
now we will probably see me get up and down a lot as I turn because we're in the garage den, which is not part of the central heat. And so I'll be turning that archaic piece of machinery on and off. And because I'm in the computer corner, which is a fairly like boxed in corner with the desktop, which means it gets very warm, but then also the air conditioner blows directly over here, so then I get really cold, so then I have to turn it
back and forth
on and off. Although I might use the fan feature, which my poor southern roots are disgraced that I forgot the fan feature was a thing, because I primarily grew up with fans. So I'm like, that might solve my issue. And yes, to echo the lovely J.K. Lambo, what is everybody working on tonight?
I'm finishing up my last proofread of my novel, A Curse of Scales and Feathers. That was what I did my Kickstarter campaign on. Hi, Laura. So as soon as I can get the proofread done, then I can format it, and then I can get it sent to the people who backed me. So
it's exciting.
Yeah. I would really like to be able to read through it one more time after I finish proofreading it, just to make sure it's all good. But I don't know if I'll have that time. I know they're waiting on me to send it to them.
Well, I hope you get that time. Just one more final read after it's formatted and everything. Just bask in it.
Good idea.
Currently at a public library with a friend, waiting for the rest of the group to arrive in the city and let us into the rented house.
Are you visiting somewhere? Into the rented house?
Is it like a group writing retreat? Or like friend vacation? Yo, hi, Candy. Unintentionally took last week off, just a lazy week. Now I'm trying to get back into it this week. Perfect for tackling the stupid ending of my book. I've been struggling for weeks. Sorry to hear. Hopefully you can kick the ending's ass and get through that. I'm trying to plot out the ending of my book. All that's left is the falling action and resolution after all the action is over. That's some of my that is either my favorite or least favorite part of the story to write, depending on, because most of the time I know my endings first.
Me too.
And I really look forward to writing my ending.
Me too.
But
I won't write it into the last draft.
Yeah.
Are you the same way, or
no?
Oh,
I thought you were just gonna like, I don't write it to the end, because I also write in order. Or
I don't write it to the end, but I don't write it until the last draft. When I know this is like the final draft, that like I don't mean final draft as in like I'm not going to proofread it and revise it again, but my final draft as in I'm not going to move anything. I'm not going to change anything big. When
before, your final draft after all major revisions and stuff have been.
When I know the story
before the editing.
Yeah. So like I'm thinking, okay, that's like my favorite part, except for when I'm on my first drafts, because then I'll never get to it because I stop and then start again.
That just makes it extra special. Laundry, entering word count plans for a new project I finished outlining this morning, and drafting Dear Sea, a Little Mermaid retelling. The title is so cute. It gives me fluffy vibes. Is it fluffy, or is it? What's the vibe?
My next book in the series is a Little Mermaid retelling, sort of. So she doesn't leave the ocean in search of the love of a prince. She does it in search of fixing herself. She just happens to fall in love with him too, but she's actually already in love with him because she did save him when he fell into the ocean. So yeah. And then the Sea Witch, I'm basing off of Scylla, however you want to say it, from Greek mythology.
Yes. If Tina were here, she could tell us how to pronounce it, but I just like thought of 3 different ways to say it, and I'm like, I don't know which one is which.
No, it has multiple. So Scylla is the Greek pronunciation. Scylla was the Roman pronunciation, like how they said in Latin. So,
okay, cool.
The way I spell it, SCY, that's the Roman Latin way, versus the Greek way was with a K.
Gotcha.
Okay, cool. In Chicago.
Yep.
Hey, that's where RC's at. Are you guys meeting with him? No, he said he's on an anime channel tonight. That's cool.
That's awesome. I am organizing a small group writing retreat. Hopefully for next spring is our plan. As long as everybody can budget it. We're going to the Gatlinburg area. Because since I'm organizing it and it's the first one, I wanted to go with an area I was fairly familiar with, and I'm fairly familiar with that area now.
We talked about it before because I live close to Gatlinburg not too long ago. Never went though. Never went.
Yeah, I think we talked early July. Re-outlining my debut because the middle fell clean out of my story. I just am imagining it when you bake something like ribs or something, they're real tender and you go to lift it off the bone and it's falls.
I had the same image in my head.
I was digging through my desk drawer and I found some solid gold in the form of some really old potential scenes that I wrote in 2004. Ooh.
Wow. It's always nice to find things like that from long ago.
Yes. Shannon, you should go ahead and introduce yourself before we finish catching up on chat. I just looked at the time. Y'all, this is one of those rare times when I request that you help me keep me to task because I'm out of it.
Well, I think you have your partner who usually helps you, and she's not here tonight.
Oh, Fox is usually the one who gets a pass for bitching at me, but he
no, I don't know him.
He is also late.
I can't run.
Well, Fox is a kind of mysterious entity that only exists within Discord because of how shy he is. But he's very vocal in my DMs, and I relay his messages.
Gotcha.
But he will be late today. So.
I'm Shannon. For anybody who doesn't know, I write under the name of SC Huston. I do have a YA fantasy trilogy that is based on Irish mythology set in 3rd century Ireland that's published. And then I have a romantic fantasy novel, A Curse of Scales and Feathers, which was supported by my Kickstarter, which is now over. It's fully funded. And I am now in the process of trying to get that book finally done, final format with final proofread and everything to get it out to my backers. I should have brought the link. I'll grab it. But it is on Indiegogo. It's an in-demand platform from the Kickstarter. So I just moved it over from Kickstarter. And so it's there if anyone wants to get anything, basically, until I move it to retailer platforms, which I don't know when I'm going to do that yet. It's either going to be November or it's going to be next year. I don't know which one yet. So I haven't decided. So I'll live on Indiegogo until I figure out what I'm going to do with it. And then, I print. I make content on my channel about publishing and writing, my self-publishing journey, although those videos have not been as consistent this year because I want to spend more time writing. And so I do a ton of writing sprints. But I do have, for all of those who are interested, I have a class this Saturday on my YouTube channel. It's going to be, I would say, at least 2 hours long and an in-depth class starting from if you have 0 subscribers to building your author newsletter, how you can get started, how can you get those first few subscribers going. And then if you do have subscribers and you just want to learn some new ways of finding subscribers, I have a ton of different ways that I find subscribers, some free, some paid, that I'm going to be sharing, and then moving into newsletter email sequences, your automation sequence, and what you can include depending. And I'm going to break that out by level. I do everything by level. So if you have nothing published, here's what you can do for your automation sequence. If you have one thing published, here's what you can do. So I'm going to go into that, and there's going to be tons of time for questions and answers as well. So that's going to be on Saturday at 2 p.m. Central Time, which is 3 p.m. Eastern. I think I covered everything. I am also have a podcast, a self-publishing tips and tricks podcast. It comes out on my YouTube channel on all major podcast platforms. We have another episode coming out tomorrow with CM Lockhart. which she's here on YouTube as Written in Melanin, and her name is Chelsea. Her author name is C.M. Lockhart. And yes, and part of the AWC team, Author Tube Writing Conference team, for those who don't know me. And our next AWC will be coming up next year. We're actually going to do a live. I think it's going to be the last Saturday of the month. We're going to do a live to announce the dates of the next AWC and talk about the change up to our team because we've added another member. So yeah, that's coming. Sorry, I can talk a lot.
You're fine. I'm just adding that. Oh, that's you're live the last Saturday of this month.
Yeah, I don't have it scheduled yet.
I have a live the last Saturday of this month too.
Oh,
So mine is from 2 to 5 Central. If yours is,
it's before. It's 12. It's gonna be at 12 o'clock Central Time.
Okay.
So we'll end before you come on.
Cool.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say we could cross promote. Mine will be a guest flash fiction free for all. So
yeah, after this is over, if we want to, we can share links and stuff. And yeah,
yes,
I'll cross promote.
Hi people, I'm Writing Mom Samantha L. Nassett. On my channel, I talk about writer things, parent things, and writer parent things because I am a parent and a writer. On Mondays, I host live streams very much like this, where it's more social and chatty, but we still try to get some work done. But also, this is one of my main ways to socialize and come out from under my rock, because I live under one because of migraines. But I try. I have forgotten all the things. I have a Discord community, the Sam's Realm. You can join via my Ko-Fi down below in the $1 membership tier. It's a lot of fun. We usually have a monthly critique group, but sometimes, like this month, it's taken a break because everybody's got a lot of life things because August is busy. But we do watch parties. We do lots of like sprints, work and chills, generally supporting each other and everything. It's a really good time. I'm very happy with my community and how it's growing. So, yeah. To answer my own question today, I will first be catching up on some admin stuff. Also, if he's loud, just let me know. And I'll turn his computer down. But I will be catching up on some admin stuff and then hopefully working on my Jaguar Shifter Pit Fighter romance story. I'm getting towards the end of chapter 3. It's been a slow crawl this week because I tried to make it a goal to write for an hour a day, but like my minimum goal is to try to do 100 words a day if I can't get in that hour. So I've been chunking away 100 words at a time. I'm like, I'm almost done with this scene.
But you're doing the 100 words every day though. That's been successful.
Yes, at least.
Okay.
As of Wednesday, I think Tuesday or Wednesday, I got back into it because before then, I was fighting my sleep schedule because when I went to shift the kids' sleep schedule back to a school sleep schedule, I believe the anxiety of having to, because like, when I talked to them about it, I was like, yeah, we're going to start shifting your schedule slowly a couple hours at a time because you're going to have to start getting up at 7 a.m. for school. And I think the pressure of knowing that like if he didn't go to sleep earlier, then he might sleep through his alarm just caused my middle so much anxiety. He like was up until 6 a.m, which my middle is not nocturnal.
Oh,
my other two are, but not that one. That one is always asleep within 30 minutes. So that was a very unusual night for him.
Yeah.
However, I'm extremely nocturnal. And so, like, it takes one night to shift my schedule to going to sleep with the sun and, like, a month to fix it back to where I'm not sleeping with the sun. It's finally fixed. I'm getting tired before 4 a.m. So that's a win for me.
Poor kiddo.
But, yeah. Oh, he was fine the next day. Like, he was... Well, no, because I knew he stayed up till 6, and because that was really unusual, I just let him sleep till like 11. So he got about 5 hours.
So that he
Oh
can.
yeah, I started a couple weeks ahead of time because they are cranky if they don't get enough sleep. But yeah, so after the first night, like he woke up, he was good, and then he fell asleep within 20 minutes of bedtime. No, he had one night of unfortunateness. I had a month, but I do feel bad he had that one night though.
Yeah,
but he's good. He's doing
he's a really
fine.
Roll into 200 player lobby.
They're all sleeping in their own rooms now. Normally they like bunk in my oldest son's room, but I was like, maybe you should try sleeping in your room this year, which my youngest loves sleeping in her room during the school year, so that was fine with her. My middle, he wasn't so certain about it, but we got him set up with a nice thing, and so far he's slept in there he actually prefers it now, which I felt he would, because he gets really hot at night, but his room is really cold, especially where like the air vent is situated. So he's like, Mom, my bed is so comfortable. It's so nice and cool. And I'm like, that's what I've been telling you. I'm trying to find where we were in the... Laura finished chapter 25 and broke 51K. Nice. About how far into the story are ye? Like 25%? 50%? I stayed in a hostel last night because I got here early. I mean, that's fair.
I've never stayed in a hostel before.
Either have I. Only hotels and not bed and breakfast. Those are different. Airbnb.
Oh, okay.
Air bed and breakfast. but they're still different. I don't count them the same. A mix of fluff and spice. Ah, yes, that's for Dearest C. My whip is a thriller. Ooh. I watched you dance from the Kickstarter rewards. I loved that dance. That was such a fun video.
The second one? Is that the one you're talking about?
I saw one where you like were rotating places.
Yeah, that's the last one. Yeah, the second one.
Okay.
Yeah, because I really didn't know that dance, and our air conditioner had broke, and it was hot, and we didn't get it back until like a couple days before the dance was due, and I didn't have time to do it for the day that I needed to. So what I did is I watched a tutorial, and I did the dance at half speed, and then sped up the video, and I did that. And then I also did it as my alter ego, Starla, with the robe and the red wig on. And then I took one of my best videos and I put it into an AI that does video to video. And so I did my video to a cartoon version of me. So then
that is the one I saw.
Yeah.
That was fun.
So I was trying to make it look like I knew the dance, but I really didn't.
It worked. Well, it worked in my opinion. I also didn't know the dance, so I wouldn't have known even if. Shannon, I'm really interested in the podcast episode you got coming up. I think it's tomorrow or the day after, which I'll see.
And I did answer it too. It is tomorrow, yeah. And she said she plans to be in the chat. So, yeah. Yes,
that's awesome.
It's coming out as a premiere, so it's a pre-recorded video, but she will be in the chat to talk to me. Give Sam money.
Yes. Sorry, the screen like blinked and everything updated. And I was like, where was that? Okay, cool. I have the notification bell, so I should get notified. I have a couple of the podcast episodes. If you want, DM me the link to the podcast and I'll share it in the chat. My child texted me half of Baba Yaga's assistant, and I was like, what? This is his library book he's reading. Like, oh. Can I become your socks or shoes or no? I haven't decided on whether I'm working on a whip or I'm doing D&D stuff. Fair enough. I just discovered a piece of popcorn stuck in my tooth. That's gonna bother me till I get it out. Is fantasy romance considered fantasy with a romantic subplot? No, fantasy romance is a crossover genre between fantasy and romance.
But it is a romance novel. It is a romance plot with a fantasy subplot. But the fantasy subplot does tend to weigh heavily.
Yeah.
So,
You better watch out your head because I'm gonna leave.
The biggest distinction between fantasy romance and fantasy with a romantic subplot is, can the overall story exist without the romance? If it can, then it's not a fantasy romance. If it can't, then it is a fantasy romance.
I don't know if are you part of Foul? I never know how you say it, Foul Rep. It just means fantasy romance. It's a group. So I'm part of that group, and they have a Discord. They also have Instagram. And so the way they define it is romance is a romance with a fantasy plot. Romantic is a fantasy plot with a romantic subplot. And then the romantic fantasy has been recently being called romantasy, which people are now they're saying romantasy is everything. But the people who write fantasy romance are like, fantasy romance is a romance book first, not a fantasy book. So there's a lot of back and forth. I think in the end, it's all just going to get muddled up anyways. But those people the authors who write in those genres, they're very like specific. Like, no, it's this. So there's a lot of chatter about it in our Discord group.
Honestly, if you have a fantasy with a romantic subplot, I would just call it fantasy, because fantasy can exist with and without romantic subplots. I would only label it fantasy romance if the romance was, as Shannon put, first and foremost, because then you're going to attract romance readers, which if your romance is first and foremost, that's more who you want to attract, is romance readers who enjoy fantasy. And then whereas like fantasy readers are extremely like, this side Sam tangent here. All right. Child's game crashed and scared the fuck out of me. So here's why I caution it that way. Because when fantasy readers come in, they are expecting very specific things, and they're going to be displeased if they don't get those things. Now, not all fantasy fits into one glove, so they gotta like learn to be more flexible and suck it up a little bit. But a lot of times when I see somebody who's like usually just a fantasy reader and then they read a fantasy romance, they're like very dissatisfied because they went in expecting very heavy fantasy elements and for the fantasy to like be first and foreground. Now, you take romance readers, they don't give a fuck. They're like, as long as my romance is good, it's fine. Put me anywhere. Give me just about anything. Romance readers tend to be a lot more flexible when it comes to the backdrop. So that's why, like with fantasy, if you're writing fantasy that has a romantic subplot, but like, then you could just call it a fan.
It's the E button.
My web got tangled somewhere in there. Am I making sense?
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I would say though, like if you're trying to market it, so I pulled the K-Lytics reports, and I've been pulling this for the last couple of years in fantasy romance, and he's even showing that the lines between fantasy romance and romantic fantasy, they're blurred. You'll find the same book in both categories, which they fall under different parts. Like what Sam said, romance is romance. You go to romance in books and you do the drop down and there's fantasy. That is what I'm writing, is that romance first, fantasy subplot or sub niche. But the romantic fantasy, you go to fantasy first when you're setting up your categories, and then you go to romance. But you'll find the same books in both of them now. The lines are being blurred. So, for romance readers, really also about romance.
Yeah. If you are writing a fantasy romance, though, it has to have a happy ending, and your couple has to hook up. This is the only law of romance,
and I think
that has one.
That is one of the biggest things that, like, I've read romantic fantasy in which the main female character or main male character, who's the love interest. They fall in love, they get together by the end of the first book, and that's a series. The second book, they break up, she sleeps with somebody else. And then by the end of the book, they're kind of talking again. And the third book, they get back together. In a romance, that's not going to happen. That's a fantasy. That is a romantic fantasy because it's mostly fantasy with different couplings happening. In a romance book, you're going to have just the main two who are never going to sleep with anybody else. It's just going to be each other. So, yeah.
At least within the screen time of the story.
Yeah, if they're, and they don't have to sleep. They do not have to sleep together, but they're not going to go and date somebody else, however that looks like.
They are the OTP.
Yeah.
Or if it's poly, there's OT.
Yes.
I can still say OTP, one true pairing, one true poly.
Yeah.
Doesn't work quite the same, but it works for these purposes. But like, and I feel this is very specific to Defend for romance readers, not only as like a romance writer, but also as a romance reader, because romance is a comfort genre. It's where you go because you know that it's gonna end happy. So like you know that everything is gonna be okay in the end. It is by definition and merit of the genre. It's supposed to be cheesy and comfy at the ending. So because I'll get like sometimes I'll see in discussions where people will be like basically that like that's too predictable, or that's like overdone, or it's this or that. And so like to shake up romance, you should like have one of them die at the end, or have them get together, or then break up. And I'm like, no, you take that shit into tragedy. Like there's a genre for that, and it's not the romance one. The romance is specifically largely a comfort genre. So
there's definitely conventions that have to happen if you are writing basically a romance book. Yeah. I'm trying to find more news
Hello,
here.
hi, good to see you.
There it is. LJ Andrews.
Yes. Oh, I'm gonna catch up very quickly, and then we need to do our first sprint. Esther. Yes, this is you defining those. Are you taking a break, Esther? Still at work? Still working while stream hopping. How much does Esther have to get done? I just need a word count range for a fantasy romance, and yes, this is a romance. That's like, I just needed a word count, y'all.
I some authors down below, and I forgot to tag her, so just to say that.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna throw out what I assume and see if it like matches with. I would assume a romance fantasy it would be between like 50 to 90,000. What is it?
Because, well, the authors that I'm following, the ones I put down below, it's a romance story primarily, but they are really heavy on the fantasy. So like me, I'm also doing and so the ones that I'm following, they're all between like 100 and 120,000, some more than that. So since you are building the world, the fantasy world, fantasy tends to be around 100,000 or more. And then and I could see it when I
read a lot of paranormal fantasy, which
that's a little okay. Yeah. So
that is different than not paranormal fantasy, paranormal romance, which
romance. Yeah,
which is a horror subgenre, not a fantasy one.
That way. No, that way. But she says right. I am totally off here. I'm talking about an epic fantasy romance.
Yeah.
Epic fantasy romance is the 100,000. If you're doing urban fantasy romance, yes, that could probably be right, because I don't read those, but you're in a contemporary setting, so there's not as much world building. I mean, you have the world building of the magic, the lore, and all of that, but you don't have the actual setting that you have to build as much, usually, unless there's a portal fantasy, then you do.
For fantasy romance versus romantic fantasy is that the second one is the majority. So the first is a romance in a fantasy world, whereas the second is a fantasy with romance within it. But that's why okay, what they're saying is the word that goes first should be more important. But here's the thing though. That's why, well, okay, I'm gonna assume, and Shannon will correct me if I'm not, but the writers who write this prefer like romance fantasy is romance with fantasy. Romantic fantasy is fantasy with a romantic subplot. And the reason for that difference is romance is a genre. So if you use the word romance, you are implying the genre. So it doesn't matter if romance is the first or the second word. If you're using the word romance, then it is in the romance genre. But a romantic fantasy, romantic is an adjective.
It's just always like it takes precedence, because fantasy is a genre too, but it doesn't get no precedence in it either. It's only romance. Yeah. Romance, it says romance and it's romance, but if it says fantasy, nah, not if you're with romance, you're not fantasy. No.
Yep. So
Yeah, this confused me for a while, and I thought that romantic fantasy just sounds prettier, so I wanted to go with that.
No lie.
Yeah, and then when I really started digging into it and the reports and everything, what people were saying, who are in that genre and writing in the genre, I was like, yeah, I guess I'm fantasy romance.
I will one day make my genre videos, but genre is one of my favorite things to delve into.
Oh, that's what I was gonna say, because Bella put some numbers down there. So when I was plotting out, I don't like make outlines. I don't do but I do like plot points. Like, I think this is going to happen. I think this is going to happen. When I was trying to figure out, okay, for romance, you have to have the meet cute. You have to have this point. You have to have this plot point. You have to have this plot. So romance is very specific. You have to hit certain plot points. You have to hit like the majority of the ones that are part of the romance plot, right? So it's like, how do I hit those plot points and like the hero's journey with my main characters, So that makes it longer because you're trying to hit all these different plot points that that happen. Yeah, I don't really see, okay. I don't see any like epic fantasy romance. I've never read one that was like less than that was around 80,000. I think there was one that was just under 100,000, but I think all of them were over. And I did ask that distinction, Hazelnut Ramblings, if you're writing epic fantasy romance or if you're writing urban fantasy romance, because there's definitely a difference. I didn't think about that. I don't know why I don't remember that, but there is a difference there.
Fantasy is, I like to call them the umbrella genres, and the fantasy, horror, sci-fi, those are some of like the big umbrellas where they're the like primary genres, and then everything else fits under them. Like the two biggest umbrellas are fiction and nonfiction.
And I grew up on fantasy, and I grew up on epic fantasy or high fantasy or sort of sorcery fantasy. There is a difference between all of them, but they tend to also blur lines. And so that's when I think of fantasy, that's what I think of. So when I think of fantasy romance, I'm thinking that fantasy with romance. For epic, you'll need the word.
Thank you. I did grab our timer. I am setting it up, but I also appreciate the reminder because, like I said, I'm very out of it today.
Especially talking about fantasy romance.
Romance, fantasy, sci-fi, horror. No, thriller fits under horror. Mystery may be one, though. I have to double check. But yeah, no, thriller is a type of horror.
There's a website. Was it Reedsy? I don't remember which one it was that put mystery with thriller. And I'm like, really? Not all mystery is thriller. So I didn't get that.
No, if mystery might be a subgenre of horror, but
not even all mystery is horror, because you have like
no. Okay, well here's the thing. Here's the thing, and I'm gonna say this before we get into our sprint because this is very important to me. Horror is not about being scary. It is about being otherworldly and eliciting emotions that you do not usually get from the other genres. That was the origin of horror, and that is what its primary thing is. It's about that uncanny valley feeling that everything is normal except something's not. There's just something slightly off. So horror is not actually about being scary. Horror has a ton of subgenres, and several of those subgenres are dedicated to scaring the fuck out of you. But like paranormal is a subgenre of horror, and a lot of paranormal is not like, it's not scary. It's not even supposed to be scary.
Says you.
So
I can't read that stuff.
My paranormal romances between my werewolves and they're not werewolves. That's not scary.
Romance is something different. That makes it less scary when it's romance involved.
But it's still paranormal.
Yeah, but when you talk paranormal, like ghosts, like hauntings and stuff like that, yeah, no, thank you.
I mean, that's fair. Although that's also when you get into like the pedantic, that's supernatural, not necessarily paranormal. But then it's like, but what's the difference? There is. I don't remember what it is at the moment, but I went into a very long, deep dive looking at what people consider the difference between supernatural and paranormal. And basically, supernatural is Oh, I didn't remember the difference now. Supernatural is like ethereal entities from the beyond and dealing with metaphysical stuff, whereas paranormal is dealing with monsters and witches and stuff that like is physical.
So
There's a
paranormal
lot of like,
investigators is wrong.
yes, paranormal. How dare paranormal investigators not stick to book subgenre definitions?
Right.
But yes, I put mystery / thriller and suspense together, which is it's fair. I'm gonna go double check while we sprint just because I really need to know. But yeah, so mystery definitely. I'm pretty sure. I'm like 95% confident mystery is its own subgenre underneath horror because mysteries are even little innocent, cute, cozy mysteries are still about eliciting that feeling of unease and that something is wrong. So mystery is actually probably the perfect subgenre for that example. All right, now let us go. 3, 2, 1.
Happy New Year's.
Hello. Because it's a school night and because of the time, I think that we'll change up our format a little bit and we'll just do another like 30-minute sprint later. Yeah.
I jumped again.
Sorry. Normally when we come back, I go, and we're back.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. I'm on camera. No, I'm not. It's like no one saw me jump. So,
Where's this jam thing?
how'd you do? Did you get anything done?
Yes and no. So because my head's kind of like out of it, I'm also in a weird mood. So like, we talked in chat and stuff, which I still consider productive for my social needs. Plus we helped Hazelnut, so that's good. And but then my children, they were like in a round or something, and I kept like messing with them. My middle child, like every time he said something, I'd be like, well, your face is this, or well, no, you're that. And then at some point I'm just like, I am sorry, mom's in a weird mood. And he's just smiling, and I'm like, thank you for putting up with me. And he's like, it's fine. So but then I did like start organizing my list for today and stuff, because I like to have a list of productive things, and I get to cross off things that I have already done on it. So, but yeah, I'm formulating that. How did everybody else do? How did you do, Shannon? Did you get things done?
Yeah, besides the chat, and but yeah, I got through 3 chapters of proofreading.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, so got a lot to go.
You read so much faster than me.
Well, no. It's,
I also can't proofread my own. I can't proofread anything. Who am I kidding? I'm dyslexic.
So I'm not proofreading it. I'm going off the proofreading notes of my Typo Buster team.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I had 6 people on my team because I had alpha and beta readers who picked out typos, and then I put it through Pro Writing Aid. Then I gave it to 2 human editors, put it through Pro Writing Aid, and then I gave it to my Typo Buster team, and they're still finding typos. So, yeah.
Bruh, like, but you're doing everything that you can. They're like, traditionally published books and stuff that also have like gone through extensive processes, and they still like Sherilyn Kenyon in an interview once, she was like, this book's been out for like 10 years, has had hundreds, maybe thousands of people read it. Someone just emailed me they found a typo.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, damn.
Yeah.
So I'm like, ever since I like read that interview, I no longer feel bad if I miss a typo. I'm like,
it's gonna happen. That's why I said I want to be able to read it one more time all the way through if I can, because I'm just doing the proofreading notes for my team. So
you're what chapter are you on out of how many? Maybe nosy.
Let's see. I am on chapter 15 is where I'm picking up, and I have 60 chapters, but I have a prologue and 2 epilogues, so 63 altogether. And I'm on chapter 15. I just finished 14. So
very long way to go.
That's why I'm always the hunter.
Clara is also hello, Claire. Is focusing on editing together 2 versions of chapter 2 in my short story, and I've also been making my own planner, and that's a big temptation right now.
I love being creative. I don't know if that's what she means by making her own planner, if that's like being the creative part. I love that part.
OMG, I just realized how the scenes I wrote in 2004 will fit perfectly in the second book. Ooh, awesome.
I wonder if that probably lives like in her subconscious, and she like wrote those knowing that was out there somewhere.
Does anybody else have this thing where I don't want to call it writer's block, because I don't identify it as writer's block. It's more like, so if I write a scene or if I write a chapter or something, and then something happens and I lose it, right? The file corrupted, it didn't save right, my backup decided to not back up like a motherfucker. Anyway,
I've always backed up. I always got your back.
You always got my back? That's good to know. And then like I won't be able to retype it until I remember a very specific part of it, because I will have liked the way I phrase something so much. And like my subconscious will just be like, no, we got to retrieve the files. We are not moving forward until we have retrieved these files.
So you spend a lot of time trying to find it again.
Yeah, in my brain.
Yeah. You have to like trick yourself, I think. That's what I have to do. Like, you know what? You're gonna write this much better the second time, so just start writing it.
Oh, that's a much kinder way to do it. I'm like, look here, motherfucker. I'm in charge. We're writing it. If we write it shitty this time, we're just gonna revise it better. I'm sorry we lost it, but we have to accept it's gone.
But
and then
I'm going off the research that shows that if you write something and you set it aside and you write it again without looking at the first one, you tend to write it better because you forget the bad parts, remember the good parts. So that's what I work off of. Yeah. So you can kind of use that.
I'll use that against myself later. Yeah. So, 269. This number just aesthetically appeals to me, and I don't know why. But yeah,
well, 2 goes into 6 3 times, which goes into 9 3 times.
Shannon understands my math brain so well.
Actually, in this book that I have, my main character, Ari, is a math person. She adds and subtracts and divides and multiplies numbers all the time. And it's a trait I have. I give it to her.
Shannon's my math soulmate. Figured out the big bad evil guys. I said that the big bad evil guys' evil plans. Sorry, because the evil was right there. My dyslexic brain convinced me I misunderstood that. For the D&D campaign, and I started making a magic item that will be important to the main story. Nice. Yeah, I'm making it from scratch in Canva. It's fun.
Nice.
Bingo. Now, I did see someone asking about high epic fantasies. Did chat want any clarification on those before I go into a
that was me putting that in there.
I know.
Yeah.
I just wanted to know if
you wanted to know the difference, or they want to.
Yeah. I wanted to know if I think you were still talking to Hazelnut. I wanted to know if Hazelnut wanted to know the difference, or if they are fine. Because you know me, I'll go into the differences.
Yes. And you have a much better way of stating it than I. I did it the easy way, which there's a lot more nuances than what I did it. So. I am happy I can make your math brain happy, Sam, says Kelly.
Thank you. I do. Look, numbers and I have a very interesting relationship. And I'm glad that Shannon shares that interesting relationship with numbers. I also have a fun relationship with the fantasy genre in general. Shannon.
Yeah.
Box. You were here when I went on my latest tangent about slipstream fantasy, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Box, this motherfucker. He made this in-depth writer survey because he was curious about like certain attitude trends or something. He explained it much better than I'm explaining it for why he made it. And one of the options he put in there was slipstream fantasy. And I was like, you motherfucker.
Oh, you say that's copyrighted. You can't have that. It's copyrighted.
I'm copywriting slipstream fantasy now. Like, I don't care that somebody else came up with it. It's not.
Well, they didn't use it in the same way that we would define it. So, but yeah,
reshare the link with me and I'll share it with chat. He said I outed him as the creator, so now I owe him.
Oh no. Hazelnut said, I would like to know the difference between epic and high fantasy.
Yes. Okay. So first we got to talk about low and high fantasy, which low and high fantasy is an interesting case of definition versus perception, because the definition of high fantasy is that it takes place in another world, and low fantasy is it takes place on Earth, like an alternative version of Earth. Lord of the Rings, which is considered by many to be high fantasy, is actually low fantasy, according to Tolkien, the man himself, because he considers Middle Earth to be in England, basically, just Earth.
Yeah.
So you can have a high fantasy background with zero magic, zero fantastical races, as long as it just takes place in a world that is not Earth. That is all that it takes. Now, the perception of low fantasy is that your magic system is small or low, and with high fantasy, you've got all the elves and dwarves and fairies and shiz. But that's not true. Now, epic fantasy can take place in either, as Lord of the Rings is, in fact, an epic low fantasy. But epic fantasy is the one that is defined by having all of those giant fantastical elements. So, like the fantastical races, the magic, the fun alternative origin thingy-mathingers. So yeah, that's the main difference, is that what most people think of as high fantasy is actually epic fantasy in either a low or high setting. And then when you decide to market it, you gotta understand the current market's perception. Yes, that's why it's a perception versus definition. So,
and we were talking about that last time because I'm on Story Origin where I do swaps, and they have high fantasy but no epic fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
They just added low fantasy. So I think they're trying to capture epic fantasy with the high and low.
Yes.
And they're working off of perception.
Well, because it's a marketing tool. So perception is like largely what I would recommend people work off of, as opposed to definitions. This becomes a really big challenge for me, who is a little pedantic, and I have like a sub-threshold of OCD. So I find workarounds such as using other phrases. But my general advice would always be to go off of like the perception of your audience, because genres are a marketing tool to reach the people who will want to read your book. And therefore that is the most important thing.
And so when I put my book on Amazon, I plan to put it under romance and then fantasy. And I also plan to put it in fantasy and romance, even though it's not technically one of those, because I see authors who are writing what I'm writing doing both.
Yes. This is also why, for me, it's important to understand both the definitions and the perception. It's also why I'm like, if you don't know your genre until you're done writing your whip, that's fine. I don't think it's that big of a deal to know until you're done, because it's a marketing tool. It's not a set of rules. It's not a set of guidelines. Now, I do also think it could be a good tool to know your genre ahead of time, because then you can research your genre and you could get inspiration from that.
Well, especially if you write in a niche genre, because my Irish fantasy, niche genre. There is no Irish fantasy on Amazon. I wish I would have researched it ahead of time. I knew there was mythology, so it fits into like ethnic mythology and Greek.
Is it in folklore?
I do have it in folklore, but then that goes down even further. Well, there's folklore and something, and then you have it niches down to Greek mythology, ethnic mythology, and I don't remember what the other one is, but there's another mythology in there. But no Celtic mythology, no Irish mythology. Yep, those don't exist. People are not looking.
Well, I think it's because for some reason there's very specific cultures that people attach the word folklore to over mythology, which it's all mythology and it's all folklore.
I do put it in folklore too.
Yeah.
But I just noticed,
like, by definition, these words are actually interchangeable. So, but it's just people's perceptions, associations they attach.
And I went to a book marketing conference this weekend, and there was a screenshot of a book. I was like, oh, that looks like kind of like what I wrote for my Irish fantasy. And it had from Amazon where it was at, and it was under history and then Celtic history. And I thought, oh, I could go put my book there. I would have never thought to put it in history, because history is, to me, nonfiction. So, and this was obviously a fiction book, and there were several. It wasn't the only one that was fiction and what I felt was a nonfiction category.
Oh, that reminds me of something real quick. Hold on. My thoughts on numbers are: I need to play whack-a-mole, and the numbers are the mole. Numbers should be whacked with extreme prejudice. See, I'm ADHD. This stuff fascinates me as much as it does. Yeah. Super interesting. Oh, I was remiss. I need to correct myself from earlier, because like the two biggest genres are nonfiction and fiction, but then there's two more super large genres under nonfiction that horror and fantasy goes into. That is contemporary and spec fic. Which contemporary just basically means it takes place in like modern-ish times. And then spec fiction is everything else. Literally, if it doesn't take place on modern Earth, it goes under spec fic.
And if you go to a master's program that is literary fiction centered, which most of them are, because they told me, because I had never heard of speculative fiction before, and I got there and I heard speculative fiction, and I'm like, oh. And I asked them, I said, what's the difference? They said, literary fiction, you're writing for the art. Speculative fiction, you're writing for the money. I'm like, yeah, I don't write fantasy for money. I was like, I write fantasy because I've written fantasy since I was 9 years old. But that's the way a lot of people do look at it.
I just, well, speculative fiction, it's also one of those things where it's like essentially an outdated term. Like nobody uses it anymore. But it was like originally invented so that people would understand that these are stories that people are making up, that they're not like part of mythology and they're not part of like, they're not part of a religion or anything. It's just, it's completely speculative. And it was heavily more associated with like sci-fi. But then like as time went on, sci-fi was its own thing. And they're like, well, horror, that's not real. So they put that under speculative fiction. So yeah, it's just, it's in general, it's kind of an outdated term that nobody uses anymore, but it is there. And I love it because it's just like, yeah, so everything not modern Earth, you just toss it in that bin.
Or you're trying to make money.
Or we're trying to make money. Because we know we have the most lucrative careers in the world. Just tell it no. I have decided that my debut book is either YA, new adult, or adult with both fantasy and romance genres. All details will be decided by later readers and potentially Sam.
What I would tell you, if you're planning on putting on Amazon, it is there's no new adult category. So you can't really do that if you want to market it on Amazon, which is 70% of most indie author sales. So it might be something you want to think about. And then YA, there's issues with having a book that's YA on Amazon. I've ran into this over and over again, and I found out I'm not the only one because I put it as YA as my categories. And I've chosen the categories to go with it, like YA, and then under YA, then it's, the fantasy, and then all the way down to, folklore and stuff. But because I did not put an age on my book, because I feel like it's upper YA, which means adults can read it just fine and have a good story. I didn't put an age on it. They kept changing my category to children's categories.
Oh.
And I'm like, this is not a child's book. If you have children, parents buy this for their children, they're going to be upset. And they're like, well, you need to put an age on there. And I just felt that was just wrong when I think of my age range is like 16 and up. So I plan on rebranding my series because it's considered YA fantasy. I'm going to rebrand it to adult when I do the rebranding of it. So I don't know. It's just something to think about. It doesn't mean you have to do that, but it is Amazon until they fix some of that.
Yeah, because that's like, I mean, so the YA category itself, I feel needs to be broken up into like younger YA and older YA, because like things that kids who are 12 to 14 or 15 are reading are not the same as kids that are like 16 to 19, which YA covers. Is it 12 or 13? So I think it's 13 to 19. I think it's the teens.
For teen ages. I don't remember. I think
yeah, I don't think yeah, because I think YA like is equivalent to T for teen in the video game. So it's like 13. Oh, thank you, Hazelnut. 12 plus.
Okay, 12.
So 18. Yeah.
I was gonna say I thought it was 12, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah, there's some YA series I would let my 12-year-old read, and then there's other YA series that I would not let him read until he's like 16 to 18. And for clarity, I am only talking about YA series that I feel are genuinely YA and not just aged down for that marketing.
The only reason why I chose
2010s did us dirty.
Yeah.
Or was it 2000?
The only reason why I did it is because I was told that since my protagonists were under the age of 18, I should choose YA. And that's why I did it. And now I wish I wouldn't have.
I will say that not all protagonists for the adult genre are adults. Hold on, I'm setting a timer for my child real quick. But so for age categories, they are categories, not genres, but they still have like certain things that go with them. Certain what's the word I'm thinking of? Conventions. Thank you. Conventions. So for example, a lot of YA stories are very coming of age, right?
Yeah,
but not all YA stories are coming of age. Some of them are just like adventure stories, or they're just kind of about dealing with life as a teen. But either way, like vast majority of the time, there is some part of the story that is intrinsical to being a teen and those teen years and the transition period that teens are going through, whether it's the early, the middle, the late, because like the only time of our life that we change as much as rapidly as we do as teenagers is from infant to toddler. It's like those are our fastest two growing periods, which is why they're like the most emotionally difficult. So yeah, that's essentially what those stories are about. So if you have a protagonist who is under the age of 18, but like everything else about the story would fit for like more of an adult themes, which I'm not saying like when I say adult, I just mean people who are adult age, like interest in themes and stuff, not the reason you would get an 18 plus rating.
Yeah.
Because like adults, our lives and interests are about more than just that.
Yeah. Yes.
So
and
then it would still be about an adult.
And see, my first book is kind of a coming of an age, but then the series progresses into much more adult.
It goes,
yeah.
So your young adult ages into being an adult.
But they don't they only gain like a year and a half of age, and they're still under the age of 18. But they go through trials and tribulations. They're dealing with gods and goddesses and mythology. So, but yeah, so the first book, yeah, I always say any kid could probably, any YA age kid could probably read the first book just fine, but not after that.
So. Then, yeah, I definitely support when you rebrand to just make it all adult. I do know there's quite a few series, like a lot of series that start out as middle grade, and then like as they progress into YA. But I feel that's like less harsh of a transition, and because of how long it takes the average teen, and I'm saying average teen, not ferocious readers. So
yeah,
because I too, I've already finished 6 books this month. I mean, they're audiobooks, but I still have already read 6. Yeah. So, but the average, like, you know, middle grade to teenager, that they age enough that by the time they get to the YA, it's fine. But yeah, but like having one be YA and then the rest be adult, I do think it's a safer bet just you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I've been thinking. I just don't know when I'm going to rebrand yet, because rebranding, I want to get new covers, and I am not making enough money on this series to justify buying new covers.
I mean that's fair.
Cool.
This is why I really like the new adult age range, because it covers 17 to 25, so it's the middleman. Yeah, but here's the issue with new adult, right? It's extremely niche. Like, one would think that, oh yeah, it's the middle ground, but when you go into new adult, you're expecting a very specific, you know how I said YA could be coming of age stories, or it could be other things. New adult stories are basically expected to only be about you, like, not you, but your MC learning to new adult. Like, it's to be on their own, to get that first job and stuff, you know, fresh out of college and stuff, which is one reason that like traditional publishers don't want to deal with it as an age category, because it is so niche. So So like with new adult, it's gotta be more about the themes of your story than anything else. And if your character's not like new to adulting, then it doesn't fit in the new adult category. And correct me if I'm wrong, that doesn't exist on like sales websites like Amazon, right?
No, doesn't exist.
Yeah. So then you find yourself like struggling to figure out how to even market it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If it is a new adult, I would just market it as adult, like just period. I would just say it is an adult, because you can have adult series about adults who are new to adulting. Like there's a shit ton of series about that. So, or at least like in the first book.
Most book promotion companies too, I've never seen new adult as something that you could say, hey, here's market, please pay for marketing on my book as a new adult. You have to choose adult or YA or children's. So
I will say I saw new adult in stores once. It was like for 2-3 years. And I was so excited. And then they took it away. And I was like,
it went quick. It didn't stay very long.
I think I was new adult age when it was there, and I haven't seen it since. That was a decade ago.
2012, I think is when I saw it.
Yes, I was 21, 22. Yeah, so.
Really? I'm like 10 years older than you.
I'm 33 this month.
I'm 43 already.
It's okay. I consider 30 to 50 the same age category. So we're here together.
I always said 40 is a weird age because 20 years ago, you weren't even old enough to drink. And 20 years in the future, you're going to be a senior citizen.
You're not quite middle-aged anymore either, because like now our life expectancy is 100, I think, somewhere around there. So you're just living your best life. It's fine.
There you go.
I read that one. Yeah, first relation. Well, I wouldn't necessarily say first relation. Maybe first serious adult relationship.
I was gonna say probably with the sexual part in there.
Yeah. Nice to meet you, Bella. What genre do you write? My bakery rivals to lovers with Project Sugar and Spice. I will always point out that I love the title of this concept. Is a new adult contemporary romance too. I will probably.
Joanne had. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. I will probably market it as adult, but say it's adult with YA crossover, but it's a fantasy romance, I think.
I would ask Joanne, because she has one book published. Is the other one considered new adult? Does she consider it new adult? And how did she choose her category on Amazon?
Is Joanne JK?
Oh, yes. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. I first met her as Joanne Lambo, and that's what's on her book. Do I have her book here? I have it somewhere here, but it's Confessions.
I mean, that's okay. I do the same thing with you. I'll be like, yeah, Shannon. People are like, who? SD Huston. They're like, oh, okay. I'm like, I know her on Discord. She's Shannon on Discord.
Yeah. Because I was on Discord as a gamer before I don't game anymore. But yeah.
Well, halfly. I don't game on the computer anymore, but I still play
game.
Switch.
Yeah. I was like, okay, game or write? Game or write? I'm gonna write.
That's the struggle. I half get around it now because I will play my Switch when I put my children to bed, because one of the hinges on my laptop broke.
Oh.
So, which, let me tell you, if you want a durable laptop brand, Lenovo, the like hinge that holds the screw to hold the screen up has snapped off, but my laptop is still standing perfectly fine. And like, it's just, I have to put my thumb there to really muscle it into wherever I want it to go. So I don't want to carry it up and down the stairs. So now when I put the kids to bed, that's when I play my Switch most of the time. She says, great question. So my book is new adult romance since the characters are in college. However, one of my readers said it sounded more YA than new adult. So I'm thinking of rewriting the book to reflect that change. I would ask them, what about, like, well, maybe you already have and you were just summarizing, but do they know what about it makes it sound more YA than new adult? Because I would be really careful about that, because a lot of people will like criticize the writing style of people writing adult if you're not writing pretentious old man fantasy.
Yeah, and hers is clean romance. I mean, it's very, very clean. So I think that might be why, because it's very sweet. It's very, very sweet romance that's built up in the book. I would say that I don't know. I don't know what the situation is, but I would say maybe because they were maybe expecting more spice or something to be more, yeah.
That's why I would ask them. I would be like, what about this feels more YA than new adult? Because that's one of those things where I'm glad that you're like really open to feedback and willing to like change it so that you can improve, but you always have to be skeptical of feedback if you're not getting specifics. And
the other thing I would say is that the main character is very sweet and a little bit naive, so that might be another, but that doesn't mean it needs to be reclassified. That people have different personalities. I was trying to see if I had her book here, and I don't think I do. I have like several books everywhere. Okay.
Oh, also, I had shared Fox's survey, so if everyone in chat could take the survey, let me know if I need to. I'll just pin it.
I did see that. I didn't know we were actually supposed to take it, so I hadn't started it yet.
Oh, that's fine. I realized I shared it and then never said anything about it. So.
I'm gonna put it back.
Also, then.
Here it is. Oh. It's a cute cover.
Oh, I love that.
So
I love that cover.
I do too. It says sweet romance to me.
It does.
It's very perfect, and I don't think it needs to be changed. Honestly, that's my thought. So
then I will go on Shannon's judgment and say I wouldn't change it because I trust Shannon's judgment on narrative tones. Also, the new adult category wasn't able to really gain a traction and expand its definition and themes because parents got upsetty spaghetti over the. Well, I mean, like, rightfully so, because, like, bruh, the way the 2010s did the YA genre dirty, like, for category, not genre. Okay, so for those who don't know, because you weren't there or you weren't old enough or just you didn't give a fuck about industry trends, you know, whatever your reason, so before the 2010s, the YA genre was very YA. It was very appropriate for its demographic. Now, when I say this, I'm not saying it was like a clean genre that had no. Outsiders existed. That is a book about gangs and drug use, like,
and cursing.
They had and cursing. YA has always had novels and stories that dealt with deeper, darker, more mature content and things because teenagers deal with that stuff. And so there was always books about that. But then Twilight and two other YA series got super popular. And because of the popularity of Twilight, what's her name? Stephenie Meyer. I could not remember her name. Stephenie Meyer was allowed to write a very graphic sex scene and stuff in her later books. And since that was like, most of the people buying Twilight at the time were women in their 30s. They weren't teenagers. They weren't moms buying it for their teenagers. The majority of the people were women in their 30s.
I was a woman in my 30s buying it.
So nobody like. I appear to have pinned the wrong comment. Oh. Give me a sec so I can pin the right comment. I was like, why does my pinned comment say 12 plus?
This chat is for 12 plus only.
Don't come here if you're under 12. But yeah, so like the fact that Twilight had graphic sex scenes and stuff at the time didn't resonate with its readers or their parents, who were probably in their 50s or 60s, as this is not for children. So like publishing companies were like, hey, you know what we can do? We can cash in on this shit. And literally there are interviews out there. There are stories and stuff. Like you can find it where authors said, I wrote an adult series and my publishing company forced me to age down my characters so that they could market it as YA so they could make more money because for some reason they thought women in their 30s would never buy another adult book after Twilight again. Okay, that's me conjecturing because
It
I'm
was probably
petty
more
and
marketing
salty
and
about
placement of books in the bookstore. They wanted to be in the same section where the popular books were, where people were heading.
Yeah, so, like grabbing your Twilight. Oh, what are these other books that, So the YA genre became oversaturated with adult novels that were aged, or with adult novels where the characters were teenagers. So these teenagers were acting like adults in adult situations, doing adult things. And when I say adult with this, I do mean the mature and, 18 plus and stuff. I don't know, just keep going. Oh, you're done. So yeah, it has taken like this was in the 2010s. It has taken a decade for there to be enough space and for all of it to like have gone down and stuff, so that now, like, and authors were speaking out about this since it happened. Like, this was never an unknown. This was never we didn't know what was going on. And so now, like, the argument is primarily, I feel like the sides are from like people who knew what happened and then people who don't. And they're like, oh, well, y'all are just like trying to censor things because you're just, upset that, because teenagers are having sex. And it's like, no, teenagers could have sex. Nah, let the teenagers have sex in the book, not on the page, but they can have sex in the book, or have it written a very specific way, because I don't want to read the teenagers diddling, But what we have is a bunch of YA books with very graphic, detailed, underaged sex scenes, and that is not okay. Like, so that's why. I don't really think that had a lot to do with the new age category not catching on, but maybe it did, because you have a point. They came out at the same time. So maybe that is why the new age category died. Sorry, Eva. Sex, I'd like others to not read about teens having sex too. It's romantic, it's drama. I'm sorry, Eva. Pull up Discord on your phone. I'm going. Okay, so I just read the review, and the reader said it could have easily been a YA set in high school based on their thoughts and actions. Then I
would say that you could market the book to like more like religious communities, because they would appreciate the growth of the characters and where they're at when they come together as a couple. So. Yeah,
it's entirely possible that reader went into it wanting a steamy romance, and now they're upset that they didn't get a steamy romance. But that's not your fault.
This does not.
That's not on you. I know that's like okay, but Shannon, are you saying that all readers always pay attention and never get upset because of preconceived notions? Yeah, that's why I'm saying I don't think this is on JK. I don't think there's really anything that she can. I don't think she needs to rewrite her entire book for that.
Her name Joanne is on there.
Joanne, yes.
I've got a special edition though, because she's changed it. I'm just kidding. I think she said she was going to change it on her cover to JK.
It was more about parents letting their 15, 17-year-olds read the new adult books and were upset that it included sexual content despite them being marketed for 18 plus and not understanding it's not YA.
So they didn't want to re-educate a populace about how to read 18 plus?
I guess. Though also, if I had been more encouraged to read instead of being left to let the opinions of friends and the boyfriend get into my head, social pressures, not direct pressure, maybe. Who knows? Sorry, I have to help my child.
Mine was very romantic. But
okay, you gotta go here.
I said my trauma came later.
My child got signed out of Discord on the computer, and I'm being lazy instead of typing her password in and trying to scan with the QR code. Why aren't you working? I want to be lazy.
I do think it kind of goes back to I'm looking back at that comment that Bella said that it wasn't able to gain traction, expand its definition and themes, and that kind of speaks back to what Sam was saying on how it did not really have a clearly defined idea of what was included in that category. So. I mean, Joanne, you kind of have to go with what you feel is the right thing.
What are your Google passwords?
Because you know your story better than anybody else does. And if that one comment strikes something within you and you're like, I kind of felt this, then maybe you do want to change it. But I would only do it if that's what you felt like maybe you felt that in your core of your writing. Like I felt like my pacing was off in my first book, but I had readers who read it who said, no, the pacing is fine. And I got my first negative comment that said the pacing was slow. And I was like, I knew in my core, like I knew that was something I should have worked on, but I was being told by everybody around me that it was fine. So I don't know. I would go by what you feel is the right thing. I find the approach that NA should be aged down to BYA to be a bit, I don't know how you say that word sometimes. Not all of us had certain experiences during high school.
Okay. Ace-phobic.
Ace-phobic.
Yeah, the approach that new adults should be aged down to YA to be a bit ace-phobic. Okay, I got you.
I think it was just hard.
Okay.
Like it was clearly defined. And yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Sam.
Oh, you're good. All right, so going back a little bit to what
Is it this?
it's this one. Sorry, I thought she was done with my attention. She is not. To what Shannon said about if the comment resonates with you, then yeah, maybe take a look at it. If you're like, I did feel it was a little like younger or whatever, and you're like, I would like to redo it to like age things up a little bit, then like follow your heart, do what your soul says. But I from what you said of the comment and from what Shannon has said of your story, I don't think it probably feels YA. I think that reader was just looking for something they didn't get, and now they're upset. In Bella's words, they are upsetty spaghetti. Mimi's like, I only just stepped into here. All right. Also, yes, I also didn't really have sexual experience in high school because I was demisexual and I didn't have interest or care until I was older. Plus, the my youngest is sitting right beside me. The idea of how certain things would fit into other things terrified me. So I was like, no, definitely gonna wait. And my family is like ridiculously fertile, so there you go. You're saying this. I guess it just took a moment.
Ridiculously what?
Yeah. So,
ridiculously what?
oh, my family is insanely fertile. Like
fertile.
Super
Gotcha.
fertile. Yeah,
I've
like
heard fertile.
Like my husband and I were married and active for less than, I want to say, half a year, and we conceived my oldest because I was like pregnant with him on our first anniversary. So I consider that I was correct in all my judgment as far as that goes. So yeah, I didn't have sexual experiences until I was an adult, but I also count romantic and sexual as separately, which is another reason for me in the category of I don't think it should be like aged down to YA just because they don't do anything on page or their relationship doesn't.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to remember why I even brought that up because she kept distracting me and I was like, why are we talking?
Well, I mean, the characters are dealing with real world issues of trying to figure out how to get, at least the main character, she's trying to figure out how to get out on her own, what's she going to do? So she hasn't left yet. So I think that's why it could be new adult, but since new adult's not there, if you're trying to go with one or the other, I would go with adult.
One of the reasons I think it's better to label new adult as like, if your book fits new adult, I would but you can't market it as a new adult. I think it fits better to label it as adult instead of YA, because new adult, it's still adult.
Yeah.
You're not new teenager, you're new adult. And yeah, for anybody who's like, well, why is young adult young adults?
I think that, but I was just gonna let you talk.
It's fine. I call myself that. It's okay. I'm trying to figure out what in chat because I got a little disjointed here.
No, I missed some. I think Eva was talking about how she was her first time was not romantic, but then she was with him for 3 years and had a kid.
Yes. I would also like for teen pregnancy to stop being romanticized. As a child of a teen mom, I would prefer that if we have stories of teen pregnancy, that it shows both the downs and ups, not just this like heavily romanticized thing. So I paid rent when I was the prime YA age.
Grew up fast.
Yeah. Joanne said, thank you guys. I'm not against the reader's feedback. Moreover, I decided to take the reader's comment in stride, but now we talked about that because Project Sugar and Spice is more new adult than Culinary Confessions is.
Sugar and Spice is if I remember right, is the daughter of the couple, if I remember right. So yeah, so I'm looking forward to that.
Generational. Mm-hmm. And my fantasy has new adult characters and no romance. I'm writing it as adult, though. I'm sorry. My brain went, yeah, adult books cannot be romantic. I'm like, that's not what she was saying. You're welcome. Anytime. Oh, yes. I think I've caught up to where we were. Oh, I didn't even see the initial issue. Was it one comment? I'd say let it go, and even if a dozen more come through, just take that information forward for the next book. Right, and then Mimi and Joanne are talking. Exactly, Sam. As a demi person, I didn't even have my first kiss until college. College, for a lot of people, are their first foray into being independent from their families. Yes. That's why I'd love to read more new adult books that don't have sex in them. Not that I'm opposed to it, though.
See, you're seeing a need, supply and demand.
She right. Yes, love. All right.
All right. Let's see. Where do we leave off here? The next one from Bella. I didn't have sexual experiences because I went to an artsy high school with 4 groups of guys, gay guys, the F boys, straight in long-term relationships, and friends of my cousins. So basically, there was no one available. And none in college because I went to a fashion school. So gays and those who will be going to home countries after graduating. Oh, so they lived outside the country. Yeah. And then Eva says it was never been romanticized. Society made sure I knew that at every turn, even in my 40s. Yeah. Society hit some of us pretty hard. I would say my first few experiences were very romantic, and then it turned bad after that. Joanne says, doing pretty well. Thank you. I'm debating on whether to add fade to black scenes in this book. I do want to add one fade to black scene in my book, but it would focus more on the emotional aspect than the physical aspect. Yeah. And yeah. You got it?
Yeah. I will say that in general, and it's potentially because I am demisexual, I prefer all sex scenes to focus on the emotional instead of the physical aspect. But I know that is just my preference. I will, however, fight for it in YA because that's just how I feel that it should be in YA.
I am working up toward adding actual sex scenes to my books. I took an 8-day stay vacation mostly after my Kickstarter ended, and I wrote my first sex scene and a story that I probably will never share with anybody, but I did write my first sex scene.
Oh, I will say, like, as a teenager, because I was demi, but I didn't know what demisexual was, so I was just like, why does everybody think sex is such a big deal? Like, I don't understand what is going on. So I used to write a lot of smut to try to like figure it out. I was like, I read a lot of smut and I wrote a lot of smut, so I am confident in my ability. I just don't have interest anymore. Just like now I know, and I'm like, eh. So most of my sex scenes, if I add them, they're probably gonna be fade to black. We'll see.
It's definitely interesting, this spectrum where you said like you didn't understand it. And for me, like I always, like I told my husband, I was like, I didn't feel like I ever started living until I started having sex. Like my life was like gray until I started having sex, and then it changed.
Interesting.
So it's totally different. I just have never written about it. So
Mimi also loves emotional sex scenes. It's just another tool to explore characters. I skim sex and battle scenes. So do I, Eva. I am also Demi, but skim these scenes more due to affrontation. Same. And let me tell you, sometimes when I like try to read the details, then I'm like, how are the physicsing? Especially with certain battle scenes, I'm like, the sword wouldn't go into the. It's frustrating. It's safer that I skim them.
I've had the same reaction to some sex scenes. I'm like, what? How is this actually working? Like, how did the author envision this actually happening?
Right? I'm like, what? Where is the link going? I thought it was. Wait. But I'll probably add those scenes as a bonus scene because I don't want to be perceived. I have taken Fox's survey. I saw the question that has there were multiple. I was upset. Like at first, I thought it was just a quiz that he found somewhere and he was sharing it. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And I took it and I got down to Slipstream Fantasy and I was like, you. No one else on this earth knows this term anymore.
So one thing I learned from the book marketing conference, which has been in the news a little bit, but I didn't know it was until I learned it, is that I'm thinking about this because copyright and Slipstream, my mind just jumped over to trademark. Mm-hmm. You should trademark your author name because people are taking author names and writing underneath them and publishing on Amazon, and Amazon doesn't support you trying to get other authors' books down unless you trademark that name. Yeah.
Excuse me as I look into how to trademark my name.
Yeah, I already looked up. You had to fill out paperwork. It could take months to a year to get the paperwork back. And it costs money to do it, but
of course it costs money.
Yeah.
$225 to $600.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. And then it's not like a quick process. You fill out paperwork, you send it in, and I don't remember the last time I looked at it. It said like a 6-month wait or something before you would hear back on it or something.
I'm so upset by this. Things are just supposed to be trademarked. Like there was. I know what I'm saying. I'm just so upset.
You just file for a trademark, Joanne. You just go, you just do a Google, trademark a name, and then you fill out paperwork for it. Yeah, there's a website for it. I'm trying to remember if that was by state.
And the books were all AI written.
Yeah, that's what I heard too, that the books were AI written. And they said, so with the rise of AI writing books, you might want to, make sure you have your own name, especially if you start becoming popular.
I don't think you have to pay to renew it.
It's just a one-time thing.
Yeah, you just have to continue to use it because that's why Disney started all their remakes, was because they had to do something with their trademarks, or unless I'm thinking copyright.
I think
public domain.
I don't know.
Yeah, my bad. That might be copyright, public domain things.
And copywriting books.
No, from my understanding, your book should be copywritten until so many years after your death, and then they become public domain unless somebody else owns the copyrights. So and they have to do something with them. They can't just hold them forever.
Yeah, it's automatically copyrighted when you publish it with your name and all that. But you can pay for copyright. That's also money. I think it's $60 per copyright. What that helps with is if someone tries to steal your work, you have the proof to show it in court versus trying to show other ways of proof that you're the one that wrote the original version.
Also, because I found this tab open. I really enjoy, this is specifically for horror genres and subgenres and like movies, but this I find is a really good resource. The original person who made it was Horror on Screen, and then Simple Film Reviews updated it. But yes, I like to use this as a visual to explain the difference between certain horror subgenres, and I especially like that they provide examples and everything. I'll share a link to the picture down below.
They don't have it for other genres by any chance?
I don't think so. I will endeavor to look, but yeah, because like, and again, this is for movies, not books. It doesn't always translate 1-to-1, but like I find that it translates very well, and at least so yeah. See here for like, it's this one has like Supernatural is gone. Supernatural used to be. Oh wait, no, there it is.
It's down there. Yeah.
Supernatural is now under Paranormal, whereas it used to be alongside Paranormal. So now Paranormal just like fits it all. But yeah, so I just like to use this as a little like example for.
I like the colors too, the way it does all the colors.
Yeah, and it's like showing that like splatter counts as gore and disturbing, but also is psychological. Yeah. And then like home invasion is like both. I appreciate that the colors are done like this too, because it's just like a little visual representation that sometimes things are more than one thing, and that's okay.
Hazelnut says sprint, unless we're chatting for the rest of the stream.
We are not. We will do one more 30-minute sprint. Thank you. I actually went to get the sprint timer when I saw that graphic, and I was like, I meant to share this.
And Candy's leaving out. So I just said, thanks for coming.
Sleep well, Candy. One of Laura's. Ghost and haunted houses are my favorite type before. Shannon's too, right?
Yeah. Y'all go ahead. I like real haunted houses. I love to go like into real haunted houses. I think that's cool, so cool, but I don't want to read about it.
I have a paranormal ghost series, more mystery than spook. Unsure how I'd get genre. Paranormal detective is how I would label it, or paranormal contemporary, or just paranormal. But I don't know if you were here earlier when I said it, so I shall says it again. Horror on its own is not actually about being scary. It's not about eliciting fear. It's about eliciting unease and that uncanny valley feeling of everything is fine except there's just something that's off, something that's not right. It's not necessarily about being scared or scary. A lot of subgenres of horror are specifically about eliciting fear, but then others are about eliciting different emotions. Basically, the whole point of horror and its subgenres is they're going to target one of your not so happy feels, and that is what they're going for. Like that's the main thing to get out of horror and its subgenres.
I used to, when I was a teenager where I lived, there was an old sanitarium that was considered haunted, and they set it up as a haunted house every Halloween, and I would go every Halloween.
That sounds fun.
It was fun. I go with a big group of friends and usually my youngest brother.
My favorite experience with a haunted house was when Chris, me and his friends went to Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Studios. And Chris is a really big, what is that? 80s Stranger Things.
Oh.
It's like that show, it's the 80s themed show on Netflix. Yeah, so he's a really big Strangers theme fan, and it was like season 2 or something had just come out. Either way, they had a Stranger Things themed haunted house. Now, I myself don't particularly care one way or another about haunted houses. I get bored in them. They don't usually spook me. I either have one of two reactions. I'm either bored or I have to be very careful not to punch somebody because like that's just my instinct is to.
Especially the ones where
raise
they
my
want to touch
fist.
out and they want to reach out and touch you. I'm like, stop.
But no, I won't go in one with touching because I have almost hit somebody before. I'm like, no, I can't do that. So yeah, this one guy when we were like walking around tried to trip me and I almost
Morgan says my brother
But-
got chased by a guy with a fake chainsaw and we weren't even in the haunted house. LOL. I can't imagine going inside.
we went through the Stranger Things one and Chris was being silly. And he like walks over to like one of the tables where they have some waffles staged and he was like pretending to eat it. And I watched this Demogorgon actor slowly creep up behind him. And I'm just sitting there watching. And he's right above him. And Chris turns around and yelled so like scared the shit out of him. He was like, why didn't you tell me? And I was like, this was my entertainment.
Yeah.
It's like, that was my favorite experience with a haunted house. I don't want to go. I'll sit outside. I'll hold your drinks.
Double drinks, yeah.
I would never go into a real haunted house. I cannot. I'll read about them though. I'll be with Eva, keeping her safe.
All right,
I'll go in any haunted house.
I'll go in.
I'll have salt and silver, but I'll go in any haunted house. Maybe an old house that's haunted, but this sort of set up for Halloween. Nope. Netflix, The Haunting of Hill House is a writing. Oh, such a good series.
I've heard.
I still remember. We will do the sprint as soon as I catch up to Eva's last comment. I still remember every haunted house I went to, and I knew going into them I'd hate them, and I hated them, and that's what taught me that peer pressure was only from shitty friends. Fair. There is a difference between pushing your friend to do something that they will enjoy and forcing your friend to do something you know they will hate. At least I think it was. My brother got. Oh, okay. This is what you're talking about. Let's go with it was fake. How dare you?
I know I saw that. I start laughing.
I fell for it too. Hook, line, and sinker. All right. Would you like to count us down, Shannon?
Sure. 3, 2, 1, and go. Sam.
No one saw nothing. And we're back.
Boy, I think you enjoy making me jump.
Because I also broadcast to Twitch, so if y'all would like to check out the Twitch, every week Eva reminds me it exists. One day I'll start playing Stardew over there or something, just on a random weekday. Yeah. So how did everybody do for the final sprint?
Got through 2.5 more chapters. Just marked where I left off so I know where to pick back up again.
Sweet.
And I also did the thing from your friend, Fox.
Survey?
Yeah.
Yes.
I did that too.
Sweet. Thank you. I finished editing my list for the day. Because, like, when I set it up for the weekend, I put, I just add, like, little boxes. And then on Monday, I have to delete all the boxes so that I can just keep copy pasting it.
So it's digital?
Yeah, it's so in my writing community on Discord, the Sam's Realm, we have a channel specifically for sharing task lists. So we just sort of like share what we hope to get done through the day. Everybody has their own different emoji system, and I love it. Somebody on there uses, like, they start off as an egg, and then it turns into like a little chick that's hatched, and then it turns into a flamingo when they're halfway done, and then when they finish, it becomes a dinosaur.
Oh, nice.
It's one of my favorite ones. Somebody else like changes theirs up every now and then. There's always like a legend at the bottom, but it's one way that we can kind of like help support each other in stuff and be like, oh, hey, look at all the shit that you got done today. Or like we'll leave little notes like, I wanted to do stuff, but today was not the day. And we'll be like, it's fine, you'll get it tomorrow. So yeah, I was updating mine for the day, putting it up there. And then I went to check my emails, and Netflix sent me an email, and it was like, hello, your Netflix account was signed in to a browser in Tennessee. And I'm like, yeah, that was me yesterday. And then it's like, if this was you, hey, keep on enjoying Netflix. By the way, have you seen My Happy Marriage? And I'm like, yes, Netflix. My husband and I do, in fact, keep up with that show. But it was, I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah. Well, the Netflix and Disney are supposed to be raising their prices, and Netflix is going to try to move to the same model that is it Netflix? No, Netflix has already done that. Is it Disney? But you know how you can have multiple accounts signed in? Well, Netflix has made it where you can't have multiple accounts signed in if they're not close to the same IP address. And so now Disney's trying to do that, and they're upping their prices by like $10. We pay $9 a month. It's going to go up to $19.99. I'm like, and we pay for Hulu, Netflix, and yeah, Disney. Those are only 3. And I told my husband, I was like, which one do we want to get rid of if we get rid of one? And we both agreed on Hulu.
For Hulu. We have Hulu for free through our phone company. We didn't have Hulu either.
Yeah.
Poor Hulu, just
yeah. They don't really have the greatest shows. They have some good ones.
Don't.
It's not our go-to.
And their TV model is also like frustrating sometimes because of the way that they work with like the live TV. It's like, oh yeah, like they have the episodes that are airing and stuff, but like they get rid of the earlier ones after a while before, and I'm like, bruh.
Yeah, because I've come across a couple different series. Like this series really looks, interesting, but the first season's not there. I'm like, I'm not gonna start it.
I'm really, really terrible at keeping up with things weekly too, so I'm like,
yeah,
you're just cutting me off at the ankle there. If I miss 1 week, I'm fucked. Yes. Hi. What's up?
No, I was getting a cup of drink, but I almost forgot what the cup was.
Okay. We have Disney, Crunchyroll, and Netflix. So
I've not heard of Crunchyroll before.
It's an anime one.
Oh.
We used to do Funimation, but then Crunchyroll bought Funimation, and they were like planning to planning to move all of their anime over there anyway, so we were like, might as well jump ship now.
Yeah.
They have 5. So they used to, for the anime, they'd be like, here, this anime, season 1, Japanese, season 2 is the English dub of season 1. But now, finally, they've got it integrated. So you just go to an episode and then you go up to the language. And I'm like, finally.
Some growing pains there.
Yes. Mimi took medicine and read a chapter of The Body Keeps the Score, Brain, Mind, and Trauma in the Healing of Trauma. I got 282 words this time. Nice. I figured out all the abilities of the magic item for the D&D campaign. Still have to figure out how to phrase it clearly and balance it, but I know what it needs to do. That's the first step. The rest is a numbers game. I researched a word I want to... Do you mind moving your tail? Thank you. I researched a word I want to trademark, and if I'll be able to, because someone else has the basic word trademarked, but in a non-book classification.
I'm not sure how that works.
449 words, though some of that was in the last sprint. I don't know how much, and started a new chapter. I'm almost done with Dearest Sea. Oh, so close, though. I wrote 676 words. Nice.
Oh, that's awesome, Clara.
Yes. Hazelnut, before I forget, there is a document with all of the author tubers who host writing live streams and possibly other live streams, but I don't remember for certain.
Yeah, no, I can grab
it. Thank you, Shannon. And so if it helps you to be more in a group or a community to, get through it, then I highly recommend like a lot of people on the list. The way I phrased that, there is nobody on the list that I have beef with and therefore don't recommend. But I'm just saying I know a lot of people on the list and therefore wholeheartedly recommend them.
And I find new author tubers all the time through the list.
So I highly recommend using the list. If I were a bigger channel, drama would come for me. It's like, oh, did you hear Sam? Who is she avoiding? Everyone. That's why I live under a rock. No, I'm lying. I love all of you. Yes.
How did you get that bundle?
1, yes, you can make food. 2, there's your phone. Sorry, say again.
I want that bundle. Where'd you get it from? That's what I want. Hazelnut.
I think it's just a bundle you can do. Do you have to have a cable thing with it, or? My parents also have that bundle.
Okay, so I'll have to look into it and see what choices are out there. Yeah, mine's $9, but I think it's because I've had Netflix since like 2009, 2008.
Mm-hmm.
I had Netflix when they were still sending the CDs in the mail, the DVDs.
I recently remembered that they did that, and I was like, oh.
You would get 3 a month, and if you sent it back before the month was up, then you could get 3 more. But you had a month to watch it and return it.
Yes. 72 words written. Wrote a scene where Lydia's ex-best friend blackmails Xavier, my male main character, into being cordial with her when he has no reason to be, as good ex-best friends do. I remember what I was going to say to this comment. I hate that that they have like paid tiers with ads. Like, if you're going to do an ad model, have the ad model be the free tier. And then for those who don't want the ads, then you can charge money, because then it's like a convenience fee and stuff. But I just don't like when the lowest tier is still expensive and I have ads. Like, wow.
Mm-hmm. But there's one of the biggest reasons why I moved away from watching cable is I don't like ads.
Yeah, right. Like, if I wanted commercials, I'd get cable.
Yeah.
I could even get TiVo. I can fast forward through the ads. Learn
I
the
think
truth
it's just
about
because
how her.
Oh, sorry.
Oh.
I say it's just they became ridiculous with the amount of ads that have been added. So I remember sitting there timing it. I was timing, okay, 30 seconds of a show, 45 seconds of an ad, 30 seconds of a show, 45 seconds of an ad.
Like, I
And
think another reason that I didn't watch Hulu is because I think the lowest ads tier with Hulu, like, it's longer than a commercial now, and it's the same ad every time. Oh my god! Sometimes twice in a row. Like, there'll be like 2 or there'll be like 3 ads are about to play, and you're like, cool, and then it's the same fucking ad 3 times, and you're like, why? This child.
Hi, Felicia.
Yes, you can take Vi upstairs.
Oh, bye, Heather.
Bye, Heather. Oh, Claire is also leaving us.
Oh, bye,
We
Claire.
we will be saying bye in a couple of minutes. Also, yes, she hath arrived loudly today. I have Crave and the roommate has Netflix and we share. I'm currently trying out Prime Video because Good Omens. Oh, my parents have Prime. We use their Prime. We have a profile on there.
I didn't like Good Omens. I tried it. My husband and I tried it. We thought it was boring. But I think we're kind of outliers.
I have been prepping some art things for use later this week, and I was in DMs. Nice. Hello and welcome. We're about to head out. There's a chance to trademark the same word with a different style, so long as there is little chance of people getting confused about the definition. I also got about 100 words of plotting for ending.
Nice.
No, I can't remember how I got it.
I'll have to research it. It's not supposed to change until October, so we've got a little bit of time. Redbox. We had Redbox in Kentucky before I moved here.
Hello.
Hi.
Right, people saying goodnight, saying hi. I didn't do the DVD thing back in the day, but I'd heard of it. I think that was around the time Chris and I just got married and Blu-rays were starting to come out. And so Netflix had 2 tiers, your DVD tier and then your Blu-ray tier. We didn't have a Blu-ray player. I just think I remember that being a thing. I missed all the streams today except for Jenna's in this one, but I will certainly try to finish this project tomorrow, if not on Wednesday. Sweet. Like, yes, you didn't like it. Kelly is scandalized.
Yeah, I have to say, my husband and I, we don't always agree on things when we don't like something. Usually one of us won't like something, but the other one will like it. We'll technically most of the time we will like something together, but disliking something together, that doesn't happen very often. And that was one of the few things that we watch and we're like, yeah, no. Usually it's like, you don't like this one? Okay, I'll watch this one on my own when you're not around. So.
As one do. Chris and I also have like shows like that where we'll start watching a show and sometimes it'll be like, you can watch this without me. That's fine. All right. I have to head up to put the children to sleep. So
yeah, well, and I'm an hour and a half past my normal bedtime, so
I appreciate you staying here past your normal bedtime.
I love hanging out with you.
Always a fun time hanging out with you. So, all right. You want to go ahead and say your introduction?
Sure. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you for having me, Sam, tonight. It's awesome to be able to do some work. I did need to work on my book anyways, even if this is past my bedtime. I am Shannon. I write under the pen name S.C. Houston. I have a channel under the name of S.C. Houston, and I run nearly daily writing sprints during the week. The schedule will decrease over the next couple months, and then I'll be back to every day during Nano. So I'm going to take a little bit of a break in between in the months coming, and putting more focus too and getting the AuthorTube Writing Conference going for 2024 because we're getting that put together right now with all our due dates and everything. I have a class coming out on my channel. It's live on Saturday, 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern. If you are wanting to grow your newsletter, if you just want to know how to get started, I'm going to be covering basics from how to get started to find subscribers. I'm not going to walk you through like setting up your newsletter on a platform, but just I'll give you ideas of platforms, how to find your first subscribers. To those who also just want to grow their newsletter lists, I have a couple of different strategies, some that I've heard it before, and then I'm going to move into email newsletter automation sequences, and then what you can do once your subscribers are out of your automation sequence. So it's going to be a very in-depth class. It's going to probably be 2 to 3 hours long. Bring snacks, bring notebook and pen and drinks and whatever it is you need to do. Bring all your questions. I'll have plenty of time to address questions. So, and that's this Saturday coming up.
Awesome. I don't think I have anything planned for Saturday, so hopefully we got this survey as long, but I shall do it for Fox.
I thought it was like, it's not done yet?
He's very in-depth with the data he wishes to see. Hi, I am Writing Mom Samantha Elnasset. On my channel, I talk about writer things, parent things, and writer-parent things. I also do a lot of writing and parenting on screen. I cannot escape it. I have a website, SamanthaElnasset.com, where you can read samples of my writing a spooky flash fiction, Until Pizza Do Us Part. I think it's not too spooky, so those who don't like spooky things might still enjoy it. I also have a villainous murder short story on my website, All That Glitters. While you're there, you can go ahead and sign up to my newsletter to keep up to date with all things Sam. I will be planning out my next newsletter, so I will have a newsletter going out this month. And yeah, thank you, Shannon, for coming. It's always a joy. We somehow always get back to genre, but we don't start. Right? We don't start it. We just always get there. Yeah. And I really enjoy having you on and talking and chat. Thank you for coming. Thanks for watching us, and we'll catch y'all next time. Bye.
Bye.